What's up, everyone? Have you ever wanted a custom lacrosse head? Those dyed heads look awesome. They look sweet. Well, guess what? I went through the process and I did it for you so I can tell you exactly what to expect. And the results? They're awesome. Sneak peek. First and foremost, where do you find dyers of lacrosse heads? So I will say kind of the first step is going to Instagram. I love utilizing Instagram because you're gonna find real, legit people. That's right, real legit people who make this their hobby. I've got some favorite ones that I keep watching that are doing some amazing things. I mean, just look at these pictures. I like using Instagram because you're going to the small business people, the guys that just love lacrosse, the lacrosse rats that are just making awesome art for you. I'll put a link to some of my favorite dyers down below. You can also utilize some of the websites that are out there that sell traditional lacrosse gear. When you order a head, sometimes you can order just a simple dye job to go with it. So those are a couple different places to look. Next, you have to decide, what are you gonna do? How crazy do you wanna make this thing be? Because let me tell you, these dyers are really, really freaking good. They do some incredible things. You can go to insane detail. There's actually something called the Dyers Cup where people start submitting some of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life. I didn't think you could do this to a lacrosse stick. It is art. I mentioned this in my last video talking about LaxCon where I found CS76 and what? This is insane what can be done on a lacrosse stick. So kind of the next thing you start to get into is the price tag, and you start to wonder, what kind of price tag am I looking at when I start to do this kind of stuff? Well, that depends. How detailed do you want to get? Do you want just a simple fade from white to one color? Or do you want to start adding in complexity to it? Do you want your name on the side? Do you want an emblem, a logo added to this? Each one of those activities cost. And you know, the more additional colors means more additional time for the dyer, which means more additional cost. I will say I put a very informal poll up on Instagram, and I will say it ranged a good bit. You know, for some of my local buddies were helping out, it was like 20 bucks all the way up to over $100 for a dye job, depending upon how focused and crazy you wanted to get. I will say, because I hate when people say, oh, 20 to $100+. I will say, I would say the average is right around $50 to $75 for a nice dye job based upon all the responses, all the answers I got. But again, it depends on your complexity. Now, when it comes to the cost of the dye job, I'm just talking about the dye job itself. You are gonna have to pay for a head, which you can either supply or you can ask the dyer if they work with someone locally to buy stuff, or in my case, the one scenario I did was we went to Sideline Swap and ordered a head. That was kind of cool. So you need to figure out the head cost. You also are going to have to pay for shipping, and let's put shipping around $10 to $15, depending upon where you are in the country, where your dyer is. You can expect $10 to $15 for the dye job. So head plus the dye job, I'm going to tell you $50 to $75-ish plus the shipping, another $10 to $15. You're gonna be in a good bit of money, but man, when these things come back, this is an incredible gift. I mean, just look at these things. They look incredible. Next, you may be wondering, how long is it going to take? It depends on the time of year. I hate when people say it depends. It depends on the time of year. If you are in kind of the very beginning of lacrosse season, guess what? Right now is probably not the best time to expect it quickly. You've got to give them a little bit of time because orders are probably pretty high right now. But generally, it seems like, you know, 2 weeks to 6 weeks is kind of what you can generally expect. So I would say give them at least a month, plan a month ahead of time, say this is what I want. The more detailed you can tell them on the design, you've got specific pictures, you want a certain name, you got specific colors picked out. Give that information to them. The more specific you are, probably the faster you're gonna get in the queue, because if they have to come up with something and they're already dyeing stuff, you're probably gonna be pushed back and back and back. So specifically my experience, I reached out to 2 different dyers. I reached out to StringShark and I reached out to SCDLax because I wanted some of the coolest stuff out there. These guys are doing phenomenal stuff, and it wasn't completely fair. I just said, hey, make me something. So that's what they did. They took my logo. They even threw my logo on here. I was not expecting that whatsoever, but I asked them to just use their creativity, and StringShark did a fantastic job. We've got the webbing spray put on there so we get this awesome marbling effect with the white and the green fade. You've got the off-ball lax on there, because why not? But more importantly and amazingly, look at that logo, the attention to detail in that logo. And I knew this took a ton of time. I saw through his Instagram stories. If you don't follow him, he does a really good job of sharing content on Instagram. I saw through the Instagram stories, there was hot glue all over this thing, because when you start to do logos, you want to make sure it doesn't run. You want to make sure that the dye stays where you want the dye to stay. And when you start to do that kind of stuff, you're going to start to pay higher than that $75 price tag, because look at the detail in the logos. I mean, come on. Whew. Next up, I had SCDlax, and just again, what a phenomenal job. We've got the off-ball lax in it. He went with the white to the green to the black fade. He went with the logo not only at the top, but at the bottom as well. I mean, what? This is insane. The off-ball lax is in here. These dyers do an incredible job, and you see with this one, I didn't ask him to string it up. Thanks for stringing it up for me as well. This is more going to be just a beautiful art piece that I want to keep around here, but he did string it up for me as well. A lot of these dyers will also string up your stick, so if you want that, there's just an extra charge. So you're probably talking, probably more than $30 in that scenario, but it is, again, something you can ask for when you go to get a dyed head. So of course the other option is, could you do it yourself? Sure, you absolutely could do this yourself. I'll link another video in here where I've learned my experiences from dyeing. I love dyeing. I think it's actually a lot of fun. I did the sherbet dye. You saw that before. More like a Skittles dye came out. It's a blast. It's a lot of fun, but it's kind of nerve-wracking. You've got this expensive head, you don't want to mess it up. So that's why you reach out to these dyers, because they do this all the time. They've got extra little tips and tricks. And come on, I am not able to put an off-ball lax face logo on my stick. That's just not even gonna happen. These guys are incredible. Their artwork, just what can be done, is insanely beautiful. So there you go. If you're looking for a stick, look at the list down below. Fantastic guys and gals out there dyeing unbelievable works of art. If you look good on the field, you know you're gonna play good. Thanks for stopping by this week. As we say around here, don't forget the little things.